McCarty. It's the new Kill Morning Show, and standing by, Mr. Boosie, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, you're weak, but go ahead.
Well, everyone knows I'm physically and emotionally wanting. Okay, let me see if I got this right. This is Mr. Boosie Hinton, the conservator of facts at the Bonnie and Clyde Ambush Museum in Gippsland. Tomorrow is the 80th is anniversary, the proper word for the Bonnie and Clyde. Their tragic, is tragic the right word, demise in the Gippsland area. Now, first question, your job as the conservator of facts. What's the one biggest fact that everybody gets wrong about Bonnie and Clyde?
The fact that they were kill crazy.
That they were what?
Kill crazy.
That they were kill crazy. They weren't? They didn't drive around America shooting people at will?
No. Ted always said that Clyde didn't kill everyone he came up against.
Right.
There were many people. Clyde was a little fella. He was 5'5", and he suffered from a complex known as the Napoleonic complex of a smaller man making a larger man do his will and bidding. And many times he kidnapped big burly police officers, rode them all around the country and everything, and turned them loose.
Seriously?
Yeah, he did that when Henry met and killed Cal Campbell, the constable at Atoka, and Percy Boyd, the sheriff, was with Campbell. He got blood spattered, but he didn't get hit. They put him in the car, rode him all around the Cookson Hills, took him over into Arkansas, turned him loose, and when Clyde turned him loose, he handed him a fresh shirt and says, "Partner, sheriffs are supposed to be presentable at all times, and you're a mess here."
So if they weren't, to use your lexicon, kill crazy, how many people did, in fact, Bonnie and Clyde kill?
Bonnie, 0.
Yeah?
The Barra gang, 12. Ted said he could put 6 on Clyde. The other 6 were collected by 5 different shooters.
More than 20.
Who ran with the gang.
Mr. Boosie, that's more than 20 folks. If somebody kills 20 people, that sounds to me kill crazy.
No, the gang killed 12 total.
Oh, I got you.
That's 9 of which, incidentally, were police officers.
So most people, their sense of Bonnie and Clyde is that Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway scene in the last part of the movie. Bonnie and Clyde, is that factually, is that a legitimate representation of their death, or is that sort of not quite what happened?
Beatty's movie was 5% historically correct.
Whoa.
I was going to ask about that, too.
That means it's 95% wrong. So tell us where it's wrong and as quickly as you can.
When you said quickly as you can, I could talk all day about that.
That's why we got you.
No, they did exercise artistic license in Beatty's movie.
Right.
And as a result, it turned Clyde and Bonnie, and you notice that I call them Clyde and Bonnie.
Right.
Because back in the 30s, Marie, Clyde's baby's sister, asked me one time, she said, "Little Ted, when did it become Bonnie and Clyde?" She said, "We always called them Clyde and Bonnie." Well, with Beatty's press media blitz that he pulled worldwide, it shifted over from Clyde and Bonnie to Bonnie and Clyde.
So why did they become, or what did they do that made them so world famous?
There were a couple of kids that were in love. Ted said their problem was that they fell in love after Clyde had fallen off the wrong side of the law fence. And their love made them put Romeo and Juliet to shame, according to the way Ted was talking.
So was it them being in love that made them sort of nutty and make rob banks and shoot people, even if it was only 12?
Well, no, they weren't nutty. Clyde was not a dumb duck. And he had a road atlas in his mind, and he could drive out of traps and such as that. He didn't, as I said before, he didn't kill came up against. They, like in Carlsbad, Mexico, they were out there, Clyde, Bonnie, and Raymond Hamilton were hiding out at her aunt's house, Nellie Stamps. And here comes Joe Johns, the deputy sheriff, out there checking on a dead out-of-state plate. Fine, he gets kidnapped. 10.5 hours later, they turned him loose 20 miles west of San Antonio.
Excuse me, Mr. Bootsy, hang on just a second. We're up against the break. This is Bootsy Hinton, conservator of facts at the Bonnie and Clyde Ambush Museum in Gippsland. Tomorrow is the 80th anniversary of their death. When we come back, I got 2 questions for you. One of them will be, would you give us, succinctly as possible, would you tell us about their last day, maybe their last 3 or 4 hours of life? Can you do that for us?
Well, I'll give you what would be a possible conclusion. No one knows for sure because they weren't seen for 2 days prior to when they showed up.
Well, hang on just a second, sir. We will be right back with Mr. Bootsy Hinton from the Bonnie and Clyde, not the Bonnie and Clyde Museum, the Ambush Museum in Gippsland. Robert J. Wright and Eric vacationing in Hawaii. I keep saying that to make myself a little nauseous. Angela Thomas here for Aaron
McCarty.
Standing by, Boots Hinton, the conservator of facts at the Bonnie and Clyde Ambush Museum in Gippsland. Mr. Hinton, Bonnie and Clyde, I've read, spent a lot of time in Shreveport, too, right? What can you tell us about that?
Well, on the 20th of May, they were coming down through Missouri and Arkansas, and they had 4 Texas law dogs right on their tail. And they pulled up to the Majestic Cafe there in Shreveport, and Henry went inside to get 3 sandwiches and 3 drinks to go. Clyde and Bonnie parked at the curb. If Clyde had said still, he probably wouldn't have gotten bounced. But a constable comes by, and Clyde rabbits, and the race is on, and the constable loses. But it was reported, and the next morning, when the 4 law dogs called Dallas, Dallas told them to see the sheriff, and they did. He told them what had happened, and they went down and interviewed the people, got through with that, and they were headed towards Arcadia. And over here between Dixie End and Minden, Bayou Dorchete comes down through there. They were building a new bridge over Dorchete and had a big shoe fly coming around it. And just as the lead Texas car hits the west end of that shoe fly heading east, Clyde and Bonnie hit the east end heading west. They met right in the middle, but they couldn't open up because if they had, they'd have possibly killed people working on the bridge up there. This was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
This is just a few days before they actually died. Were Bonnie and Clyde at this time, were they so well known, were they so famous, were they so notorious that every law dog, as you described them, would recognize them on sight?
Yes and no. In some areas, Clyde was cool. He didn't pull anything. And therefore, he wasn't hot in some areas. Now, in some areas, he was hot. And the law enforcement had the wanted posters and such as that. But the normal average citizen, they were walking around, eating in cafes and such as that. Nobody paid them any attention.
Okay, so tomorrow is the 80th anniversary of Bonnie and Clyde's death.
That is correct.
Can you walk us through maybe the last, what you know about, maybe even the last day or their last few hours?
No one really knows because they weren't seen from that time there at Bayou Dorchete until they showed up at 9 o'clock the morning of the 23rd here in Gippsland at Malcan Fields Cafe. And Clyde came in, got 2 sandwiches to go, got back in the car. They take off down the road. Bonnie has time to take 2 bites. Clyde drives 7 miles and met their record. Hey, that was a short breakfast.
So how many law dogs opened fire on them and where, if anybody doesn't know?
Well, there were 6 officers. There were 2 deputy sheriffs out of Dallas County, Texas. There were 2 special investigators for the director of Texas Department of Corrections. Then there was Sheriff Henderson Jordan out of Danville Parish, Louisiana, and his deputy, Prentice Oakley, out of Bentonville Sheriff's Department.
Pardon me, it's called the Bonnie and Clyde Ambush Museum. That would lead me to believe that the law dogs knew they were coming and where they'd be. How did they know? Was there a tip-off?
Well, they knew that when they came over to, on the 21st, when they came over and talked to the sheriff, they told him what they had learned there in Shreveport. And he said, yes. He says, I know that old man. He's a wood hauler. He's rough, tough, raw. But he hadn't done anything, so I haven't been able to get hold of him. But I know where he lives down there. I know that only road in down there, and I know the best spot to set up. Now, this is on the 21st. So they get a bunch of sandwiches and drinks and everything, and they go down there and they camp out. They're lined alongside the road because they know that one of 3 things is going to happen on that road. Either Clyde and Bonnie are going to come in or go out, or Henry's going to come in or go out, or old man Benton is going to come out or go in. And the morning of the 23rd at 4:15 that morning, excuse me just a second.
You readjust whatever you need.
He's ringing.
I thought that was my bad leg. Talking with Mr. Boots Hinton he's the conservator of facts at the Bonnie and Clyde Ambush Museum in Gippsland, and we are midway through the final moments of Bonnie and Clyde. Go ahead, sir, please.
Okay, they, let's see, at 4:15 that morning, now they had been there for 2 days and 2 nights alongside that road. And Ted said there was no such thing as an adrenaline curve, said that there was a lot of spikes, but no curves. He said, son, if a gnat had broke wind at half a mile, somebody would have triggered a shot. And so, see, they didn't have a trap. When they first set up down there and everything, if Clyde had come along down through there driving the way he did at 70 to 90 mile an hour, the only thing they'd have had had been dadgum skeet shoot.
So Bonnie and Clyde are coming down the road, and then they knew it was Bonnie and Clyde, right?
Yeah, but see, old man Meston coming along at 4:15 that morning, they take him out of the truck. They handcuffed him to a tree 75 foot behind the firing line because he wasn't answering questions correctly.
So, but pardon me, so Bonnie and Clyde must have been coming down the road like they're driving through a school zone, though, correct?
Well, when they saw Meston's truck sitting up there, they knew the truck. They slowed down.
Uh-oh.
See, Meston didn't realize it, but he gave them the key to the lock of the trap because he was out looking for Henry that morning.
So suddenly they see Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde know this is not looking good. What was there?
Well,
did they shift into reverse? They opened.
No.
What happened?
He pulled it down into first gear. The car was idling. He had his foot on the clutch, which he was driving in his stocking feet. And when he pulled up by the truck, the car was just barely moving. And Bob Alcorn hollered, halt the law. When he did, Clyde's head went up, Bonnie screamed, and Prentice Oakley, the deputy down here, popped off the first 2 rounds, and he nailed Clyde right in the head. And Clyde's foot slipped off the clutch. Car goes idling off up towards the ditch line and everything, and Ted said one thing ran through every officer's mind. This clown has gotten out of 11 traps before this. Is this number 12? And he says, son, with that, everybody unloaded. They were scared he was getting away again.
Any idea how many total shots fired?
The only thing I can give you is entrance and exit counts on the car, and that's a total of 167.
Yow. Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Bonnie was hit 53 times and Clyde was hit 51.
Okay, tomorrow, the 80th anniversary of the Bonnie and Clyde death. Angela, go ahead.
I have actually been to the museum. My husband and I have been. It's been a while. I loved it. What can people see if they go to the museum? And I'm sure it's going to be pretty crowded this weekend, right?
Well, this being the 80th anniversary, we look for a large turnout. And the festival committee has done a good job of getting everything together. We've got all kinds of foods, arts and crafts, games for the kids. We even have bingo for the old-timers. We have a look-alike contest at 11 o'clock. We have parade at 12. The shootouts downtown are going to be at 10, 1, 2, and 3. And then at 4:30, we reenact the capture out at the capture site.
Now, is it tough to find people to volunteer to play Bonnie and Clyde, or are they lining up to do that?
Well, we have a group known as Public Enemies. and these guys are some of the best reenactors that I've ever seen.
And what time are those? What time is the reenactment shows once again tomorrow, please, sir?
Okay, the reenactment capture is at 4:30.
Okay.
At the capture site, which is 7 miles south of Giveland on Highway 154.
Okay, for the museum, is there a website that folks can go to see the schedule of events and to see everything special you have planned for tomorrow's 80th anniversary?
The festival committee does have a website.
What would that be, do you know?
It beats the heck out of me, partner.
Fair enough.
I'm the public safety coordinator, and that is what I do.
Well, this is Mr. Boots Hinton, the conservator of facts at the Bonnie and Clyde Ambush Museum in Gippsland. An incredible day, a historic day planned for tomorrow, the 80th anniversary of the Bonnie and Clyde Ambush in the Gippsland area. Mr. Hinton, you've done a fabulous job. We appreciate your joining us so much this morning.
Saturday is when we do all the shootouts and everything.
Okay, I apologize. Saturday, right. We're up against the break once again. We appreciate your time and know that you are welcome anytime. And as a conservator of facts, you are obviously the finest in the state. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Keel News Radio Time.